The way that I would budget traditionally for benefits load, basically everything else that's outside of the employee's base compensation, is come up with a percentage uplift based on where they live. So I know in the US, and this is like rule of thumb, between 20 and 23% uplift if you include like 401k, healthcare, dental, vision, any sort of payroll taxes associated with it. And so like if you made 100,000 out of budget for like 120, 123, 4, 5,000, I would start to come up with percentage uplift assumptions for each department. So engineering, maybe that's a 30% uplift, maybe on the high side, I don't know. But for the rest of the departments, it could be 10%, 15%, 20%. And then just start to measure if your assumptions are right quarter by quarter. But I think you got to put a line in the sand and just have something to measure against. And to me, we're moving into an era where it's a percentage of the employee's OTE, similar to how it would differ by country. So like in Switzerland, it's going to be a 50% uplift because everything's like state run. They have excellent benefits. Your children can go to school for free. The UK, it's like 35%. Canada is like 15%. It's going to be different by department.
I take a different view. So you're treating it almost like as a benefit that's accrued at the employee level, and you can budget for it that way. Why not go to like zero-based budgeting and have teams or managers kind of just be explicit about the trade-offs? Because there are some teams that might explicitly say, hey, we actually want to be very heavy adopters of AI. We found these use cases. These are really valuable. And we want to spend a lot more money on AI, but that's like decoupled from the headcount load. You wouldn't allocate a spend on demand gen based on how many marketing team members you have. You're not like, we've got 10 marketers, so like each of you can spend 20% of your salary on advertising. Like we don't do that, right? We do it more on an ROI basis, and we have like an envelope for a marketing budget, and some of that's program, some of that's headcount, and we're kind of constantly figuring out the best bang for your buck in terms of that mix of the two. And that's where I think this AI spend needs to go.
Well, this is where you get into giving them a budget envelope. And so what that means is, let's say there's $10 million for the department to spend. You can say, I don't truly care about the mix between people and software / tokens / anything else, but it needs to stay under 10 million. Now there may be a max headcount in there too. And also just because of like how the org works, we don't want to add 1,000 people at like $100 each. Not that you could find that, but you just want to put a max guardrail on that. I totally see what you mean there, because traditionally marketing spend, it's somewhere between 60% people, 40% programs, and then you can dish out those programs within that. And so maybe you look at it like a portfolio or a budget envelope and you split it up that way.
The only thing that could backfire with that model is like the ability to experiment. So if you set these budget envelopes, we're much more advanced with AI than we used to be, but there's a lot of it that's like, hey, I don't actually know if AI is going to be able to work well for this use case, or like how many tokens something's going to cost. I got to do some tinkering to figure it out. And you don't necessarily want to shut down experimentation. And so ideally there's like a budget carved out for experimentation purposes that's kind of like a part of the overall budget, but that like explicitly gives teams some level of discretion to try things out.
And I would budget for that part at the corporate level, and based on certain ROI triggers, I would dish that out as people reach them. Be like, marketing's crushing it. They have some great ideas. Here's 5% of that $10 million slush fund we had.
Yeah, I like that. I like that move. When I went all in on my newsletter, Growth Unhinged, last year, I quickly decided it was time to make the switch to Beehive. I chose Beehive because they're serious about powering the internet's best newsletters. Beehive's all-in-one platform brings together newsletters, websites, and every tool you need to grow and earn. And they keep making it better. You can now launch, host, and monetize your podcast entirely on Beehive. You can host webinars on Beehive. And you can access Beehive through the new MCP. I just use Beehive's MCP in Claude Cowork to audit my site, prioritize SEO fixes, and analyze subscriber trends. It's my newest obsession. If you care about owning your audience, Beehive is a no-brainer. Try Beehive for free by going to beehive.com. That's BEEHIIV.com. Use Kyle30 for 30% off your first 3 months.